Now, the archive of the East London Mosque is unique in the UK. It's one of a tiny number of mosques that are listed on the National Register of Archives.
The collection spans the 20th century and includes photographs, birth records, architectural and building reports, and all sorts of other treasures, as our very own Sadia Chowdhury has been finding out.
The Red Brick Mosque in the heart of East London belts out the call to prayer from its lofty minarets. It certainly doesn't scream history, but there's plenty of history within these walls. And now the mosque has launched a project to catalogue its past. Its archive has been awarded funding from the National Archives. Correspondence, minutes from meetings, birth and death records, it's all currently stored here at the adjoining London Muslim Centre and is largely unsorted. Quite a task then for the woman who's been hired to put everything in order. Elise McCarthy told Living the Life she's anticipating the unexpected.
Well, that's the beauty of it. I mean, that's it. It's unknown, and you never know what you will come across. But I think more importantly, it's just about building a picture of the mosque and the centre in its earlier days, and sort of these records are really the evidence of those activities and the involvement in the wider community.
Elise has just started work on the project and says it may take up to a year to carry out the initial cataloguing.
I will meet with people who have been involved with the archive before. I will chat to them about what they know about the collection. I'll go and investigate and physically pull things off the shelves, have a look myself, I'll list, and then I'll get down to the nitty-gritty of actually cataloguing, which essentially means coming up with an overall structure for the collection. The arrangement should reflect that, and then I just catalogue them, which is a description of what the records contain.
The archiving will begin with this book here, which dates back to 1910. It's the minutes book for the London Mosque Fund, which was set up to establish what was to become the East London Mosque. The mosque says its aim is to allow access to and engagement with the archive once it's been completely catalogued. It hopes this will allow the Muslim and wider community access to research and explore this valuable historical resource.
Physically it will look different because part of the project is to repackage, so everything will be repackaged into archival standard boxes and folders. That's just about physically looking after the collection and making sure that we can preserve it and keep it in as good a condition as possible. And then in terms of actually having control over the collection, that's where the catalogue will come in. The archive itself won't be scanned, it won't be digitally available, but the catalogue will be digitally available, should be available online and here at the centre. And that will be a way for researchers and anyone really who's interested to have a look through the catalogue, discover what's in there, and kind of carry on from there.
The East London Mosque serves the largest congregation of Muslims in the UK. London's oldest mosque, it has a rich history that spans over 100 years. The panel that awarded the cataloguing grant to the mosque says it's part of a strategic project to create a national precedent. It hopes other Muslim institutions will invest in their archives and encourage the development of an archival tradition. After all, it stresses, archives are a significant source for the history and the evolving identity of Britain's Muslim community.
Welcome back. Now that's very interesting. Sadia, you must have had an amazing time there.
Yeah, it was really nice. It was really great of them to let us go through all these papers and some real bits of history there. And now, to give us some more details about these fascinating archives, we're joined by one of its members, Jameel Sharif. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much first for letting us come and have a look around. We were all just fascinated by all of that history. Tell us a little bit about what can be expected to find there, because it dates back over 100 years, isn't that right?
That's right. The earliest records are from 1910. I think it's an incredible treasure trove, and it will really allow, when the time comes for writing the social history of Muslims in Britain, it's going to be one of the primary sources. And as the video showed, you didn't get a size of the archive. When we were bringing the material together, there were 45 boxes.
Yeah.
And at the moment, they take about 26 meters of shelf space. And my estimate is that there are about 250,000 separate documents going back 100 years. And in there, you find incredible stories of individuals' devotion and sacrifice to do something for their community, how the community found its roots, how the efforts to mobilize for campaigns, in terms of getting planning permissions, all sorts of tiny episodes which tend to get lost. You know, how come we hear the azan when we walk down Whitechapel Road?
Yeah.
What is the struggle they have to go through to have the azan broadcast on the street? You know, how there are many incredible stories. So I think it'll be a treasure trove and a gold mine.
Yeah.
And more importantly, I think also it'll help young Muslims to have confidence in their history. That the Muslim settlement is not just a post-war phenomenon.
And connect better with their local
Connect
mosque.
better and appreciate the contribution which Muslims have made over the last 100 years. Though, of course, the contribution does go way beyond that.
Yeah. Now, the East London Mosque is, of course, iconic to that part of London, other parts of London and across the country as well. Now, I want to make that distinction. This is the East London Mosque and not the London Muslim Centre. We don't want people to be confused by this. What's been the response from people who've passed by and had a look at these?
Well, the East London Mosque and the London Muslim Centre are sister bodies.
Yeah.
They are both managed by the East London Mosque Trust. Initially, I mean, the question is, why should this be in Whitechapel, not in Regent's Park? And the reason is that from the 18th century, there have been settlements of Muslims in the Docklands.
Yeah.
And they were known as Lascars.
That's right.
And these were incredibly brave people. These are the men who would go on the topmast of the sailing ships and lower the sails, remarkably resilient. And it is that spirit which led to them settling in that part of London, creating their institutions, and really creating the momentum for an institution to be established.
Right. And these people are often forgotten. We actually had an author on a few weeks ago.
last week.
Who wrote about the Lascars.
That's right.
Now, Jimmy, we want to have a look at a few of the images which you've kindly brought along with you.
Yeah.
These are images we want to look in more detail. The first one, let's bring that up. It's called the Mosque Fund Minutes Book.
This is the one that was
This
in
is
the
the one
VT. This was the body that was set up to create the East London Mosque. Is that right? The London Mosque Fund?
Yeah, so what happened was around 1910, the great and the good in the Muslims community at the time, people like Amir Ali, Justice Amir Ali, and his friends, and the Aga Khan and so on, they felt the need to have they felt there was no mosque in London. So they set up this trust, the East London Mosque Fund. And this book has meticulous records of their meetings. And these are the days before word processors and printers. And so there's beautiful handwritten notes of each meeting starting from the start of the trust up to 1950s. And this book actually now is the base of a book by Professor Humayun Ansari. So it is available if people want to look at the detail.
And how long are we talking? How far does this date back, this particular book?
It starts from 1910.
It's amazing.
Yes. So the interesting thing is that they met. They were the great and the good, and they met in a posh London hotel.
Yeah.
And initially they wanted to build a mosque in some central part of London, but it was the pressure from the East London community which said do something where the need is. And that's why they bought the first properties on Commercial Road.
Right. We've actually got another image as well. This is the programme schedule. If we could bring this one up as well. Now, this is another one of your archives. Explain this to us. What's happening here?
So the archives, the archives are important because they're not just about the East London Mosque Trust, but there's correspondence and letters from other mosques across the country. And often the archives are the only place where there's a record left of these other Muslim institutions over the last 100 years.
Yeah.
And what we have here is a program of a Mawlud being planned, I think 1943.
A Mawlud is a
Prophet's birthday celebration in 1943 during the war.
Yeah.
And so this is one of the organizers making a rough sketch of what should be the order of play, who should be the speakers
for the event.
For the event. And it was run by the event was organized by the Jameel Muslimin. So Jameel Muslimin would be the community organization of the day, the IFE of yesterday.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Harun, I want to bring you guys into this because you're both very familiar with the East London Mosque. Must be great for you guys to see this.
I'm fascinated. I did not know the East London Mosque went all the way back to 1910. I thought the first communities were out in Sheffield and these parts, and that was pretty much it. But to hear that it stretches that far back is really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean the fund was established in 1910, and nothing happened till the late 1930s, when this community organization, Jameel Muslimin, told the great and the good, do something. You can't just sit
Wow, it took them 20 years.
They were just sitting on it because they had this vision of building a grand mosque. It was a pressure from the community which said, do something for us now. And that's how the commercial road mosque started.
But it is, I mean, when you go to these archives, I don't know if the public are allowed just yet, but when you go, you can see how it's developed. We found the annual review for 1993 to 1994, and we compared it to this year's, and we did want to bring it in, but we weren't able to. And just 20 years ago, everything was still black and white. It was like 8 pages, really thin, little, small document. And just 20 years later, we've got glossy, and there's like so many more developments. I remember in the old one, 20 years ago, I mean, the main thing was, can we buy more mics? And now there's like multi-million-pound aid projects going on. It's incredible.
Yes, but see, the archives are important because they show the struggle. Things just didn't happen overnight, and I think it's important for the...
What was the biggest struggle?
The biggest struggle was around after 1985, when there was a prefab building on Fieldgate Street. I don't know whether you remember that.
I don't know.
Okay, so there was prefab of 85. And then funds had to be raised for the East London Mosque. So once the East London Mosque was built, there was a car park. And they had a tremendous struggle to get the car park made available to build the LMC, the London Muslim Centre. Because the first inclination was for property developers to come in and build luxury flats. Right. Then there was a project to build a fire station. But it was the persistence of the trustees which enabled them, and the way the community mobilized.
Yeah.
And they had marches and they lobbied the councillors.
Oh, wow.
So that car park was made available for the London Muslim Centre.
Yeah.
That's
really,
great.
it's incredible stuff. We want to give more information a bit later on about how people can possibly have a look at these archives. But for now, Jameel, thank you so much for joining us. Now, while we try and digest all of this informative news that we've been hearing over the past few minutes, we're going for a quick break.
That's right. We'll see you back here in just a few minutes.